Welcome to Influence Interviews, where my mission is to introduce you to people who will have a positive impact on your practice because of their expertise, their experience, and their example of great leadership. Today, my guest is Kate Crockett of DK Carr and Associates. They are experts in cybersecurity and HIPAA compliance for healthcare practices, both dental and medical. Welcome back, Kate. I'm glad to have you on the podcast again to share your expertise.
So excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I like our little conversations.
I like it too. I learn so much when we get on these calls together. I think that cybersecurity is really scary for a lot of people, right? And I think when fear plays a part, you tend to not address it, right? You keep kicking it down the curb. And it's one of those things you always think that you'll get to. In fact, this was true for me until I came to your conference back in January in Savannah. And there were some things that I knew that I needed to do, like basic things, just as a business owner. Well, frankly, just as a human, right? Like in today's world.
Yeah, we should all be doing this within our own families, right? It's not
Right.
just businesses, it's within our family and our households that we should be doing this for too.
Right, just having a VPN. I didn't have a VPN until I went to your conference. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like in your practice and where you get that reliable information, where this false sense of security that can be out there through different things. So I would love for you to share with us today, how do you know, A, that you're compliant? How do you know you're secure? Where do you begin?
Well, I think the biggest thing is what you mentioned, the false sense of security. That plays a huge role because I hear so often, oh, my IT people have got that. Oh, I've got that taken care of. And it's a brush off, it's a brush off because one, they might not want to deal with it. Two, their IT people might be telling them that, and so I think that's the biggest thing I really wanted to touch on today is the difference between IT and cybersecurity. Now, IT primarily is set there to set up your software and your networks and things like that. And yes, they should be looking at the security of things. But who's testing what they're setting up? If they just tell you, how do you know that 100%? Because I can guarantee you a lot of these companies, and I mean, the HIPAA Journal just came out with an article last week, and it listed breaches, and 3 of those breaches that they listed out of the 4 were all dental practices.
Really?
And so who was telling those people that they were secure? It was probably their IT, and they probably had told people, oh, we're good. We've got that taken care of. And so that's really, that false sense of security that you were talking about, or even what they're using in EagleSoft or Dentrix or, any of those things. There definitely are things built in to make it secure, make it compliant, things like that. But there's also user errors. And, we talked about this before. Your worst threat is your employees and yourself. I mean, sometimes it's the doctors that are making these mistakes, So
and
once again,
not needing to be there to train your staff.
Absolutely. Training. I harp on it. It's the training. If something's going to happen, it's probably going to be because it was a user error, and it wasn't probably something that your IT company set up. Unfortunately, it's going to probably be something that somebody did. They didn't close down their computer. They, were shopping online somewhere they shouldn't have been. And so that's really where we come in is when we do our scans and we can see, what ports are open. We can see, who's allowing what, are you allowing all of your employees to be able to shop on Amazon or to shop on any, why are they shopping during work time anyway? Would be my first question.
Well, in today's world, this is an interesting point you make because my husband is in the construction industry. And it used to be that you shopped from very specific vendors for very specific things. And today where it is very hard to get product, right?
Yes.
for him. And so I
Supply
don't know if
chain.
this is true, but Amazon has become a place of filling needs, especially if you need it quickly. I mean, so let's
Yes.
say they're purchasing their gloves maybe that week because they
Yep.
forgot to place an order, and so how does that impact the security? If Doc does say, hey, jump on Amazon and just get us a box of that until our order comes in. Now what?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be cases where, but we don't want everybody to have that access.
Right. Okay.
There needs to be a specific person, and that's why you always assign, a security officer in your practice. It's not going to be the person in the IT and that they're your security officer. You need to, it's either going to be the dentist or, the office manager. And all the responsibility goes on to those shoulders. So, maybe the office manager has the right to go on and order things if that's the case. And, they can't get it somewhere else, but they can get it there. Great. Go ahead and do it. But we don't want every single employee to be able to do their Christmas shopping and do all the birthday shopping and things like that. Save that for home. You can go home on your off hours and do your Christmas shopping. So, I mean, you have to kind of, think about it in a logical manner. Is it okay to have one person have access to things like that? Yes, obviously. But then, that really comes down to, administrative rights on computers. And that's where the IT is coming in and, making sure that every single employee has a different password and you're not just using the same password for everybody and they don't have administrative rights. So oftentimes we go in and the IT department has set everybody up to log in as admin and their password is password 1234 exclamation point. I'm telling you, we've just had one that was staff 1234 and everybody logged into every single computer under administrative rights and all the passwords everybody used was staff 1234. So, those are the things that we are saying. Yes, IT is there. Yes, IT is necessary. They are there to set up your network. They're there to set up the softwares that you're using. They're there to set up your passwords and things like that and your rights to what you can get into. Do they always make the best decisions? No. And then that's why it's important to have somebody like us come in and do the risk analysis every year to see those things of what they are doing, where are they leaving you vulnerable? And so cybersecurity focuses on protecting those electronic assets. So we're not there to set them up. We're not there to do all of that stuff, but we're coming in and making sure that they're protected and they're protecting you. So make sure that all of the employees have their own logins, their own passwords. They're changing passwords on a regular basis. You're teaching them how to set up good passwords, not staff 1234. Those are the things that we're going to come in and make sure that the IT department is doing those things right. I mean, you don't want everybody getting onto the server and working off the server. We've had where somebody's working remote and they're remoting right into the actual server computer, so those are the type of things that, IT will tell you, oh, we've got it, you're secure, we're good, thumbs up. And it's not. It's definitely that false sense of security. So you need to, when you think about your IT, also think about your cybersecurity. They go hand in hand, but they're not the same thing. And I think that's where people get really confused is, automatically they think they're good and it's not getting done. And then when they find out is when it's too late. And so,
Right.
when people say to me, oh no, I got an IT people already. We're not IT. So we come in with a different thought process. Cybersecurity uses a triad and it's called CIA. So it stands for, the C is confidentiality, I is integrity, A is availability. So, confidentiality, making sure when you log in, you're logging into each individual's password. So think about it this way. What if everybody in the office didn't get along? Does that happen? Do you see that, Laura? I'm just wondering, have you ever seen that in an office?
Dysfunction and miscommunication? No, that never happens.
Never, right? Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. And we know that that happens. And, you know, some people are vindictive, unfortunately. There's some people out there that just don't do the right thing. And so if you have everybody logging in as the same person on every single computer, who's not to say that somebody doesn't go in there and do something to harm, you know, to harm somebody else? And
creating a
say it was them.
Yeah, because I want to point out right here that creating a culture of trust, because I speak of that a lot, does not mean putting yourself at risk. You know, it doesn't mean that we trust each other so much that we don't take appropriate protocol. So I appreciate you saying
absolutely, absolutely. And so, you know, I mean, we've had these incidents happen where they're like, oh, that wasn't me. I wasn't on that computer at that time. But if you had individual passwords and individual logins, and you see that Jane Doe was the one logged in on that computer, guess what? Sorry, Jane Doe, you're the one who did it. You're the one who's responsible. There's your
Jane
ticket.
Doe gets a ticket.
Jane Doe, you got a ticket. So, and I mean, and you know, it might even not be leaving PHI open. It may be something detrimental. I mean, we had, unfortunately, practice that the swipe cards, they were taking payments, and then she had a swipe card and she was swiping it twice, and then she was taking the amount out of the doctor's office and keeping it on her account. And if they hadn't had individual logins, it could have been any one of them, you know, but since it was an individual login, we were able to go straight to it, see exactly who it was. And there, you know, and of course there were bad consequences on that one because that was stealing. And so, but if they hadn't had that set up and we hadn't been there in that practice to make sure that they had that set up right, who knows what have happened? They may never have caught the person that was doing it. So that's where, you know, it's very important to have the confidentiality and make sure that, you know, your login and whatever you're inputting, it's coded to you. So
yeah, that's a great example. Thanks for sharing a case study, because I think sometimes we don't realize how important it is until you realize the ramifications.
Absolutely. So then we have integrity. Obviously, we want the data to, you know, data integrity to be there and provided, and make sure your purchases are reflected in your account and you're allowing to contact representatives if there's any discrepancies, things like that. So integrity is very important, especially when we're dealing with patient information. You know, that's going back to that patient service. You know, we want to make sure that we're servicing the patients best we can. And integrity is a big part of that. You know, we want to be able to say, hey, we do take this seriously. We are not going to be sharing your information. And we hold a lot of information. Not only is it their health information, it's credit card information. It's where they live. It's their social security, you know, so being able to make sure that that is secure and the integrity of their information is secure, that, you know, that plays a big part of it. And so again, that's not the part of IT, that they're not doing that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, we've talked about this before too. In a world where everything seems like it's out there, I get lazy because I'm just like, it doesn't matter. They know what I'm doing at every moment, every day anyway, whoever they is out there.
Yeah.
So you get this feeling like it doesn't really matter what you do because the hackers will get it anyway. But that's what I think is important too. When you have that culture of and the integrity that goes along with that.
So, and also with integrity, it's not even the patients always that you're worried about. It's the integrity of your employees as well. Like, do you want everybody to know what your salary is? What are the salary amounts? You know, those numbers sometimes shouldn't be shared, so it's not just your patients, it's also within your employees and your team, is the integrity of keeping them safe as well and keeping what they have, private. There's reviews that happen. We don't want everybody to be able to see, what everybody else's reviews are, unless that's part of their culture, maybe, but I doubt that everybody wants to share all of that information sometimes, so the integrity of what you're keeping on your computers and in your servers and in your systems is important.
Well, if that is actually from an HR perspective, that stuff can't, those reviews, have to be under lock and key anyway. So you're in a different violation if those things are getting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to think of all of those things. So it's really important to keep everything on kind of a lockdown. And again, that goes to having different passwords, not having administrative rights, making sure, like, your hygienist, they don't need all the admin rights, they don't need to go in there and do all of those things. An office manager, maybe they need a bit more rights to different things, because they're doing more of the day-to-day inside the practice, so maybe that, so that's where we work with the IT department to say, hey, don't let everybody have everything, that we don't want to give the keys to the golden goose, to everybody, like, keep it on lockdown a little bit, and so then availability is the last thing, and making sure, they have the availability to do what they need. They can get into their software that they need to use. They can get into their emails that they're going to need to use, so availability is important, but it's not the top of the grid. It's not, you want to make sure that you are safe, but they also have the availability that they need to go into the information that they need to have. So yeah, those are, the CIA triad is what we call it. So confidentiality, integrity, and availability is all important. And that's what we work with the IT department hand in hand. And that's sometimes the things that are a little bit skipped that we find that IT doesn't think in that manner, because they're there to set it up. They're there as the initial person to set all the computers up, set your laptops up. If you need to connect remotely, they're going to, set that up. If you have cell phones and they're going to, turn those on, they go in and they turn on the phone system. They're the ones who, work with VoIP and things like that. That's what IT does. They're the hardware, software. We come in and we make sure that what they put together is keeping that confidentiality, that integrity, and availability set, and making sure that the practice is safe and protected. And so of what they set up. So that's kind of the difference between what IT does and what cybersecurity does, and what DK Carr can do to come in and make sure that your practice is cyber safe. And what our slogan is security brings compliance. And so think about, the cybersecurity, if we put everything in place hand in hand with your IT, that's going to bring your compliance. It's a no-brainer. You can't go the other way around. Compliance does not bring security. Security brings compliance.
I love that you said that, actually, because I think you're doing that. You're checking all these boxes thinking that, I'm compliant, but you don't know what you're missing without that full analysis. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah, you go through those security measures, and then at the end, you're kind of like, oh, now I can bring my HIPAA checklist here, and oh, look at that. I'm checking off boxes, and HIPAA compliance, I love this one. Oh, we're completely HIPAA compliant. It's really not ever completely HIPAA compliant, because things are always changing. Things, your business is changing. The practice has, like I said before, you might be buying another practice, and so it starts all over again, and you need to make sure. So when we are creating those policies and procedures to keep you HIPAA compliant, we're going to be working with you. That's why we do a periodic assessment every year. And that's why HIPAA wants you to do a periodic assessment every year, because they know that things change. They know that, you have different employees that you're going to have to be training on. And so it's a constant, the wheel is constantly moving. And
Well,
so
it's great that you brought that up, Kate, because in our next episode, we're actually going to, that we do together, because we like having Kate as a regular on this show.
like being here.
The onboarding and the exiting of employees. So
Yeah.
stay tuned. We'll get into all the nuts and bolts of how, when you're having transitions and employees coming and going and all those training bits, those key things to have in place during that phase too. So thank you so much, Kate, for being here today. Stay tuned.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you are very welcome. And thank you for watching today. We'll see you on the flip flop.
Y'all soon. Bye.